What's up, people? Another episode of Just for Sport. Jumoke Davis here with you. We got another pod. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the National Football League draft. I've got some thoughts, and I know I'm a little bit late with them, but I'll get to that. Why? We're going to talk about the Washington Commanders possibly moving to RFK Stadium, back to the old site, which would make me happy, but not happy when I read some of the fine print. The NBA playoffs, right? I'm repping the district because I want to rep the district with the Commanders. But also, we'll talk about the NBA playoffs. Yes, the Wizards are not in the NBA playoffs, but I'm talking about DC a lot in this pod. I just felt it was the right shirt to wear. Major League Baseball, my disappointment and surprise so far, again, I guess it's only a week ago that I talked about it, but I'm still disappointed. I will talk about that and maybe a little Kentucky Derby. But we're going to start with the National Football League draft. First and foremost, I am overjoyed with what the Commanders did. Needed to protect the franchise, the quarterback, and Jaden Daniels, and taking the offensive tackle out of Oregon, Josh Connerly Jr., I'm good with that. Rest of the draft, didn't need a wide receiver, address cornerback. I'm not going to go all into it. Yes, I know I'm saying I'm going against what I'm about to say, that Jaden Daniels did have an immediate impact in his rookie season. But realistically, do many rookies have that kind of impact? In some ways, it remains to be seen. Maybe it's going to be like 2 to 3 years from now, but I don't want to bog you down in analyzing every draft pick. I was happy with what the Commanders did, and I look forward to seeing where it goes from here. Now, the question mark I have is what teams that needed a quarterback didn't do. That surprised me in the first round, and that's the Steelers not taking Shedeur Sanders. Why? One, it was almost a layup to just take him. And this is more out of curiosity, because I would respect what the front office and coaching staff decides to do with the Steelers. They know what they're doing. Do I? This is just my opinion. It's just for sport, right? Just for sport. But my feeling is, in many ways, that there is no doubt that Shedeur Sanders, in my mind, could have helped this franchise. But I know that there were a lot of things that probably went into that. Maybe he didn't pass the eye test. Maybe it was the drama that he was going to bring with him, talking about, I'm going to change the culture of whatever team takes me. And if you're the Steelers, you're like, yeah, I don't need you to change our culture. I need you to conform to ours. Maybe it was Deion Sanders. You knew that if you were getting Shedeur, you're also getting Deion Sanders, if nothing else in Shedeur's ear, if not in the ear of the coaching staff and front office of the Steelers. And then also there was always the thought that if the Steelers coaching staff and or the GM that don't do well one season, that they'll be like, oh, well, they can't get the most out of Shedeur. Only Deion can. And all of a sudden, Deion's hired as the head coach. That may have also been a possibility. Very much so. The Steelers went with Derek Harmon, also from Oregon, like the Washington Commanders, but the defensive tackle. And you heard me say in the last podcast, yes, I believe defense wins championships, but not necessarily a defensive tackle over a quarterback, right? But I will say this. I kind of like what they did in getting Will Howard. And I'll tell you why. Coming off of a national championship, winning a national championship with Ohio State. He's 6'4", 235, big quarterback, accuracy, a leader, right? You led his team to a national championship. You hope he can do the same thing for the Steelers. And you got him in the 5th round, right? Maybe he could be like Brock Purdy. Maybe he could be like Tom Brady, who was taken in the 7th round by the New England Patriots, and we know what happened in his career. We know what's happened in San Francisco with Brock Purdy. Maybe Will can be the same thing. But the one thing that stuck out in my mind is Ohio State quarterbacks don't necessarily do that well in the NFL. You get one, or you got one, in C.J. Stroud. You just had one in Justin Fields. How'd that work out? Not great. I'm not going to go into the whole history of the quarterbacks. But if you look back, Troy Smith, Terrell Pryor, Craig Krenzel, Braxton Miller, Ohio State quarterbacks, we'll see. We shall see. But I did like the pick in the 5th round. What I didn't like is what happened to Shedeur Sanders. We got the prank call, which was the most disgusting thing that ever happened. And Mel Kiper said taking Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round was a disgrace. It's a sham. There was certainly something against Shedeur across the league that was like, nah, we're not taking him early. All this talk on social media of, oh, you had to humble him, right? I saw a lot of tape, right? Because the funny thing is, I bet for a lot of these coaches, they're like, well, we were watching the tape. We were watching the game. But where technology is today, so can the fans. So can the media. We all can see the tape. You can almost see the exact same thing that the coaches are seeing. I'd like to say, okay, maybe there was something that they saw that others didn't see. But that's sad. And I'm happy that the NFL stepped in to levy a hefty fine on the defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich, and his son. The disgrace by Jax Ulbrich to think that that was a good thing to do, to prank call a player like that, to steal the number off of his dad's iPad, cost the Falcons $250,000, cost his father $100,000. Apologies mean something. They do. I know. And it is wonderful that he apologized. And Shedeur Sanders said, hey, water under the bridge, I'm past it. I'm happy about that. But I hope this doesn't lead to more prank calls in the future. It's one thing to not like your draft pick, but this was going too far. It went a little too far. And I just hope it never happens again. Ever, 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 ever. Now, what I want to happen again is for the Washington Commanders to be back at the old site for RFK Stadium. I've been to a game at RFK Stadium. I've been in the seats that bounce, right? When the crowd was getting excited, the whole section just bounced. It was an intimidating place to be in, but obviously I didn't play. But I can imagine for the opponents, and when you would hear interviews talking about how it was an intimidating place to play, in the area right now where that RFK site sits, wasted land, wasted space. And it's time to bring it back to DC. Rep the district. Every team that plays for Washington should be playing in Washington. Not in Landover, Maryland. Not in Northern Virginia like Ted Leonsis tried to sneak the Wizards and Caps away. No, you play in Washington. We don't want to be like the New York Giants and New York Jets that play in New Jersey. you got to play in D.C. You got to rep the district. And that's what I hope will happen. But not at the expense of taxpayers in a bad deal. I've read multiple articles from ESPN to Yahoo to the NFL. Roger Goodell was at the press conference with Muriel Bowser. And I know that Muriel Bowser is like, not that she didn't already write her own ticket by keeping the Wizards and Caps in the arena in the heart of DC. But if Mayor Bowser is able to bring the Commanders, the Washington football team, to DC, I mean, she might go above Marion Barry as far as the lore of DC mayors. The revenue it will bring in, hands down, will be great. Roger Goodell talked about how special the day is and that it'll be great someday if there could be a draft party here, Super Bowl here. All those things are wonderful. And for the city maybe to bring concerts here and other events, yes. But I was reading also an article on a website called Field of Schemes. And you just hear about the tax break the Commanders owner will get. $429 million tax break on a, $4 billion stadium? 65,000 seat stadium? Now, I do like that the Commanders will contribute $2.7 billion to this $4 billion stadium. But the taxpayers paying over $1 billion? I don't know about that. That's the part where I'm like, I don't know. Because when I'm reading some of these things, and I think this is why apparently the DC Council is split 50-50 on whether the deal should be done. And this press conference seemed like it was a done deal, but apparently it's not a done deal. Stadium's going to be owned by the city. So maybe there's other revenue that the city will be able to get. Josh Harris, apparently the Commanders owner, is going to pay $1 a year in rent for the next 30 years. $30 for a stadium. And the surrounding development. That alone is like, man, okay. All right, let's see. A lot of the costs are going to be paid by DC residents, but the city will get zero stadium revenue. And this is based off of Field of Schemes. And I'm sure we're going to get multiple articles coming out about this deal that are bad from the Washington Post. And I'm going to continue to discuss this. But I was just curious to read this. And where's DC going to make its money from? Possibly the surrounding areas that will have different businesses. I hope there's going to be some good green space. I hope there's going to be, maybe not just maybe a practice facility for the team, maybe a football field for kids to play on, maybe the high school championship, maybe a college football championship may get DC as a site. So the hope is that the benefits of the money that Josh Harris is going to be getting from parking, personal seat licenses, revenue from tickets, that they're going to work this out and say, okay, well, maybe you can't have everything. That's my hope. Because in the end, I just do want a stadium on the old RFK site. And I want this to work out and not fall apart, because it seems like the Commanders are getting everything. And the residents are also paying for a lot of the cost to build the stadium. That's what I don't want to have happen. I hope that there's some transparency that'll come out that'll show how this is going to shake out in the end. And that it's favorable for the city and its residents and for the Commanders to come back to D.C. Because in the end, that's what we all want. That's what would excite us the most. It really is. And the other thing that I would hope is that maybe there's some free tickets given to the residents that live around there that may end up being displaced. And I would say free tickets for the 30 years. Maybe it's a DC resident section. Maybe it's a lottery. Every game, it's a lottery. You got to put your name in the hat, and there's like 1,000 tickets that are given away to DC residents. Something good for the city. Maybe one of the suites. I'm hearing that DC, the city's going to get 2 suites comped. Maybe one of those suites can have some DC residents in it for some of the games. And over the course of 30 years, maybe there's this long list of residents that you put your name in a hat, and maybe you get to come into a suite. Something where the residents feel a part of the team. I mean, I love when you think about Green Bay, and that, fans are part owners. If maybe there could be something where fans, if they can't be part owners, there's, something that they feel like they're getting something out of this deal. And it's not just the taxpayers' money going towards a new stadium, when it could also go to schools and roads, etc. We shall see. We shall see. But what I want to see is all of the DC teams finding their way back into the city. That's what I want to see. I also want to see some quality. I want to see Game 7. I want to see Game 7 in the NBA. And I think the best chance of that are the Knicks and Detroit. Now, when I started making my notes for what I was going to talk about today, and frankly, I didn't get to do it because we lost power for a day. And kids' sports just got in the way of everything I was trying to do. But here I am. I was going to rail on the refs missing these late calls. These 2-minute reports, oh yeah, Luka was fouled in Game 4, which did cost them Game 4. In the Pistons game, oh yeah, that was a foul on the Knicks. We didn't call it. We didn't see the contact. If we're not going to say that a ref missing a call is inexcusable, right? The Lakers are out of the playoffs. They're done. They had won that game. Maybe they would still be in it. They still could have lost last night to the Timberwolves and still had another game to try to win the series. You're costing the team, the players, the fans an opportunity. They are robbed of an opportunity. Robbed of an opportunity to see their team advance. To see their team play maybe one more game. Robbed of millions, if not billions of dollars. Lakers made a trade for Luka. Luka gets fouled. Minnesota wins the game. Oh, sorry. That's huge. even from a public relations standpoint, JJ Redick, Lakers must get in championship shape. That's a shot at Luka. You traded for this guy, and already you're taking a shot at him, taking a shot at the team. I know, talking about the team overall, but you played all of your starters an entire fourth quarter. Didn't use the bench. Yeah, you could say, well, the bench wasn't doing it for me, and a lot of NBA teams shorten their bench when it comes to the playoffs, but a full quarter? You might have cost your team a chance to advance, JJ Redick, more than the shape of the players did. I would contend that. I would contend thinking that Austin Reeves is anywhere near a superstar to rely on, up and coming, because LeBron James is on his way out. That's your tandem is Austin Reeves and Luka. No, you're going to be out of the first round of a lot of series. But to go back to the refs, that can't happen. And if you're the National Basketball Association, you say, hey, refs are human too. I'll give you that. Then say more calls are reviewable. In the last 2 minutes, a coach gets a challenge if it's the final play of the game and it's controversial. Maybe it's as simple as that. Something has to be done to fix the system, because it's unfair on so many levels, as I've described already, to allow for a ref to affect the playoffs in that way. Should never happen. Refs are human. They make mistakes. And let's fix the mistakes by making more calls reviewable. And I imagine, even for any fan to say, oh, well, it'll slow up the game. But if it's your team that's out of the playoffs because the refs missed a last-second call, come on. You tell me you wouldn't like that? You like that? I think you would. I think you'd be all for it, as you should be. I don't want referee abuse. I want to help the refs. Hey, my bad. Yep, let's review that. Tim Hardaway Jr., yeah, there was contact on your three-point shot. Pistons should have had at least, not saying they definitely would have won it. Maybe he would have missed all of his free throws, right? He's an 80% free throw shooter, but maybe he would have missed them all. That's a distinct possibility. But he never got the chance. He deserved the chance. The Pistons deserved the chance. Who knows? They may have closed out the Knicks on the Knicks' home court, because they won their last game 106-103. Would like a game 7. That'd be a good one between Detroit and the New York Knickerbockers, who I still will say, you can't win with a point guard as your best player. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But I am excited about, and the refs almost cost Denver a win too. I had a note there as I was noticing. Lakers are done. LeBron James doesn't know about his future. Did them drafting Bronny James hurt their chances of maybe getting someone who could really contribute to the game? That might be unfair. Probably is unfair for me to say that, but I'm sure many people are going to think about it. Jackson Hayes. When you saw Rudy Gobert, what do you have, 27 points, 24 rebounds? You didn't think Jackson Hayes could have helped? I think JJ Redick got into his own head a little bit. That ego of, I know what I'm doing. Lakers are on the outside looking in, so now they all got to go home and think about it. That's not good. Can't possibly be good. I think it's a disappointment for the Lakers in so many ways to be the 3 seed and lose to the 6 seed in the Minnesota Timberwolves. To look at a young team like the Timberwolves with a young star in Anthony Edwards beat the young star in Luka Doncic. To see some of the role players for Minnesota, I would contend, are just as young as the Lakers outside of LeBron James. I mean, Minnesota also has Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert, so they got some older players too. It's a disappointing season for the Lakers. I would almost contend that they've got to really shake it up. And that seems crazy because they just shook it up getting Luka. Maybe you could say, well, we just need a whole season with Luka. Okay. You didn't fully save Nico Harrison in Dallas. But man, the drama going into next season, if Dallas is good, if Anthony Davis is healthy, Kyrie Irving, I was very surprised that he was showing up at a lot of these Lakers games. Maybe it was support his former teammates in Luka and LeBron. That's what I think. But also maybe just kind of spying how they play together for revenge next year. Man, I want to see, if I could put money down right now, and I want to see Dallas versus Lakers in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Woo! That's going to be great. But let's talk about this NBA playoffs. Cavs crushed the Heat. I think they will beat the Pacers, but I think it's going to take 7 games. Pacers look good. Bye-bye to Tyrese Halliburton's dad. Inexcusable. Banned from the playoffs. That was a despicable act to walk on the court after the Pacers eliminated the Bucks and start trash-talking Giannis. He shouldn't be allowed in another stadium, and I know that his son Tyrese Halliburton agrees. But those Pacers are good. And I think they're going to give the Cavs a run for their money. That might go 7. But of course, I picked the Cavs to win the NBA championship, and I'm still sticking to that. I am. Celtics. It doesn't matter who wins between the Knicks and the Pistons. Celtics are going to win that series. But who is going to win between the Pistons and Knicks? I think the Knicks. I think the Knicks will win in 7, but I could see them winning tonight as well. That was a tough loss the other night. It was. Timberwolves against the Rockets or Warriors. I think Golden State will close out the Rockets tonight. Rockets crushed Golden State in Houston. And I know that that's like, well, you got to win the games you play. But mentally, that may not have been a good thing. The Warriors, who have championship pedigree, were embarrassed. They were. They were embarrassed. And now they're going to embarrass the Rockets. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Warriors against Timberwolves, 7 seed versus the 6 seed. I'll go into my prediction. I should say I'll go into my predictions later, but I think he's not a Hall of Famer. I'm not going there. But I think you put Draymond Green on Anthony Edwards defensively. I think Timberwolves, I think they could lose to the Warriors. Warriors over Wolves. Nuggets, Clippers. Now, I picked the Clippers to get to the NBA championship. I did. And I think if the game was 2-2, if it was 3-1 going into Denver, I think we would still be where we are today at 3-2. I do. That was a lucky 1/10 of a second dunk for Denver to win it in game 4. And it's easy to say, oh, well, it's must win for the Clippers. But I think that was a heartbreaker that unfortunately I just don't know if my pick is solid anymore. I know I'm giving up on my thought of the Clippers getting to the NBA championship. And I'm going to stick with them with my pick, I got to stick with my gut check pick. So I'm rooting for them. But something's different about Denver now. Maybe it was the animosity, the little scuffle in game 4 is getting a little chippy. Maybe that's it. And I think you might have woken up Denver a little bit, LA Clippers. I think so. And if that's the case, man, Thunder Nuggets, woo. Man, Thunder, I don't know. I mean, SGA, I know Oklahoma City had the best record in the NBA, but the best player in the NBA, to me, is still Nikola Jokic. And if Jamal Murray is hot, Michael Porter Jr., and what? I'm so sorry. I'm blanking on the player's name for Denver. Oh my gosh. Who had the game-winning dunk? This is amazing that I just simply cannot remember. But in my mind, it's Denver's roster is legit. And they have championship pedigree. Aaron Gordon, that's who it is. I had to look it up. It's going to be a good series. I think it's going to be a good series if it comes to that. All right, Major League Baseball. What I don't want it to come to is that the standings as they are now end up being the final standings. That, unfortunately, has my Orioles in last place. They have been the biggest disappointment this season to me as I looked at it so far. 3-7 in their last 10, minus 49 run differential. And I know that 24-2 loss plays a big part in that. But I don't know if they're going to be able to turn it around. I don't. Yankees look good. I picked Boston to win the AL East. The biggest issue for me with Baltimore is the pitching staff is not good. Can they turn it around? Yes. But there's got to be a nasty taste in Baltimore's mouth by being swept in the first round of the playoffs 2 years in a row. They did not look good. And I think the pressure of getting back to that championship level is getting to them. They are not doing well hitting and pitching. It's bad. And how do you make it better? How are you going to beat the Yankees, who have the best average hitting in baseball, the most home runs, second place in runs batted in, Boston's fourth? The Yankees are up there in pitching as well. Maybe not in wins, but in strikeouts, looking at some stats. Quality starts, Boston's up there. When are they going to turn it around? Yankees, Red Sox, top 10 in team batting. Orioles, bottom 4, 27th. That's not good. I'm going to keep rooting for them. And the amazing thing is, as bad as the Orioles are right now, the Yankees are running away with it. In your mind, at least. And for me too, right? Torpedo bats. Yankees are playing well. Orioles only 5.5 games back. And that's the silver lining in the disappointment, in trying to, for me, for you, and your team, if you're Orioles or someone else, to remain positive. at 12 and 18. You have a little run. You go 8-2 in 10 games. You're back in it. I'm still disappointed now, but they're still in it. Now, the biggest surprise to me on a positive note, I know it's easy to say what I'm going to say is like, oh, well, yeah, of course you're going to say that. It's the Nationals. 13 and 18. And by the way, I was going to say that the Braves were a bigger disappointment than the Orioles, but the Braves are now only 2 games out of 500. They're climbing back out. And Ronald Acuna Jr., he's going to come back, and then all of a sudden it's going to be like, boom, Braves are back where they're supposed to be. But Nationals, 5 games below 500. Even with them not being great, not having a great pitching staff, bats are okay, coming to life. They've lost 3 in a row, right? That also means they were only 2 games outside of 500. I am surprised. Minus 33 run differential. 9-7 at home. They're playing well. They're playing well. And the Pirates are not having a good season. 12 and 20 on the season. Minus 38 run differential. Only 2 teams are worse than that. Are the Los Angeles Angels. 3 teams are worse than that. The Orioles, Angels, and the Rockies. Rockies are 5 and 25. There's no doubt that I think they will end up with the worst record in Major League Baseball of all time. They are. And there's been talk of, the stadium is awful for pitching and hitting. No, I know y'all. You have to remember those Dante Bichette days. That's the only player I can remember. But they were cranking it out. And the pitching was okay. Something's got to give. But the Pirates, my condolences go out to the family of the player that fell over the railing 21 feet into the warning track. You never want something like that to happen to anyone. The fan is in critical condition. It's amazing that the Pittsburgh police and the EMS and the Pirate staff quickly came to the help of the fan. It is quite interesting that I end up in a 6 degrees of separation, know who that fan is, but I'm not going to say who it is. I hope that he ends up somewhat being okay. But that the Pirates are it's just another black eye on a really, really bad season. And McCutcheon posted on social media, truly hate what happened tonight. Can't help but think about that guy, his family, and friends. I pray tonight for him. I hope he's okay too. I do. And I hope that for the sake of the Pirates, maybe put a patch, something dedicated to this fan on their jersey or on the wall. Something, because life is short. Life is truly short. And, from a standpoint of what happens next for the league, I like how close fans are to Major League Baseball. But maybe in a situation like that, they're going to have to think about building higher walls. Maybe, I don't know if it's glass or if it's a net. Because no one wants this to happen again. And my heart goes out to the family, and I hope that they are... Man, I hope they're okay. I hope they're okay. It's always hard to transition from that. Kentucky Derby is coming up soon. It's this Saturday. And it's on my bucket list to go. And so thinking about a gut check pick. I wanted to do a gut check pick. Who am I going to go with? Now, the favorite is Journalism. And I love that name. At Pitt, when I graduated, it was called Media and Communications. I think that was my degree, from shout out to College of General Studies. But Journalism is the favorite at 3-1. And I've been reading and listening to podcasts and trying to make a gut check pick, because my initial pick, which, look, what I'm saying is that's not necessarily a gut check pick, because I've been reading and listening to stuff. It isn't. But what I was going to say was I was going to go by names. And I said, what is that? Win Play Show. I was going to go with Journalism to win. And I was going by names, right? I said Journalism to win, American Promise as a long shot for third place, and Rodriguez to be second. That was my thought. Journalism, Rodriguez, and American Promise. Because all I was going by was names. I don't know, and I like long shots. But then I heard about Luxor Cafe. East Avenue is someone to consider at 15-1. That's possible. As some sleepers. Luxor Cafe and East Avenue as sleeper. But that's what I was going with. Journalism, Rodriguez, and American Promise. We'll see. Gut check pick. I don't know. How can you say Journalism is a gut check pick? And it's like, well, I'm just picking the favorite, because I think the favorite is a really good horse. Everyone's talking about their really good horse anyway. So, that's my pick. That's my gut check pick, is Journalism. And that'll do it for Just for Sport. Enjoy your sports weekend. I know I will. Ciao for now.